Hello and welcome to the Hoop Show Sunday edition. It's a solo show today, and yes, we're playing the Cat song, but not for long. We had a loss. Sadly, we had a loss. My name is Ben Reeve. Thank you for joining me this evening on the show. It is just me, as I said off the top. It's a solo one tonight. Mother's Day. My mum's overseas, so that's why I'm not seeing my mum today. But Paul's spending some time with his mum and family and his wife as well. So so just me. So we had a loss. Unfortunately, a 4-goal loss to Richmond on Friday night in front of 58,000 at the MCG. While the Young Cats were pretty good last week against Adelaide, unfortunately they weren't able to cope with the Tigers' relentless pressure. That was reminiscent of their premiership era, really. We had some opportunities, though, but we did let ourselves down with some poor kicking and some really, really questionable decision-making. Richmond, on the other hand, couldn't do much wrong. If I'm making a comparison, they look like the Harlem Globetrotters and we look like the Washington Generals at times. They just did what they want and we were just looking silly. It was horrible. Final score, Richmond 16 goals 6. Barely missed, 102, to the Catters 11 goals 12, which may have been a little flattering towards the end. Not ideal at all. What are you going to do though? It is what it is. We won 5 in a row. We're due for a loss, I suppose. We're not going to go on these 16-game winning streaks every year, are we? It just doesn't happen that way. You've got to take the losses when you with the wins. Hopefully we get back on track next week against Freo, which won't be an easy one over in Perth. It never is. They'll find a way to make it hard for us, I'm guessing. So, and they're starting to look a little bit better as well. But we'll see, hey. I guess sensing the mood of the Geelong supporters, at least on Twitter, it seems like most of us are keeping our heads a little bit, knowing with all the outs that we had, like I think it was 8 premiership players, possibly 9 if you count Selwood, 8 premiership players out of the side against Tigers. They were always going to beat up on us a little bit. Just to me, it looked like the old guys looked old and the young guys looked too young, and they just didn't have that cohesion between the two. It felt like the senior guys were trying to do too much to compensate, which was causing them to get frustrated and make errors. And when you really just needed the young guys to play reasonably well, and for the senior guys just to play how they normally play, we would have probably been a little bit more competitive, but unfortunately it is what it is. And credit to Richmond, their chaos footy worked really well. I just don't think our list or our squad that we took in was able to cope with that. Too many guys that hadn't experienced it before and hadn't experienced the Geelong way of playing as well, or weren't familiar to each other. So that's what it is. I guess we're all a bit frustrated, but I think I said in the preview show and possibly on a Twitter Spaces through the week, I expected us to come away from this game feeling a little frustrated and scratching our head about the way we played. It is what it is. You're not going to win them all. You're not going to play champagne footy every week, and you're going to throw in a bit of a stinker every now and then. But hopefully one stinker doesn't turn into 2 or 3. I don't think Port Adelaide's too far away as well. They're looking mighty good. So it would be nice to get over to Fremantle and get the win and come back and play GWS, which they're a bottom 4 team now. They look like a reasonably easy win at home. We'll look ahead later in the show, but but let's have a bit of a look at what Twitter's been saying in terms of some of the ticks and crosses. So I'll go through a few of them. All right, so Glyn says, heaps of positives with the team last night. The main question I'd love to have discussed on your pod is, do the Cats need to train for chaos ball? Seems to be the one form of scoring we deal with really poorly at times. Tigers and Pies have used it to great extent against us. Yeah, and I think I responded to Glyn on that message, just saying, or that tweet, sorry, just saying, I think it's one thing to play that style, and we've previously had that control style of footy. We've tried to control the ball when we've got it. I think we've been able to adapt now and to use the chaos ball reasonably well. But defending, it's a different thing altogether. And I think if you're not familiar with defending against chaos footy, then you can look a bit ordinary at times. And I think that's probably where it was at. So who knows? Look, maybe later in the year we'll be in a similar situation injury-wise. Let's hope the things start to turn for the good for us as the season progresses. But there's no guarantees with that. I don't think we've had too many long-term season-ending injuries at the moment, but heaven forbid that doesn't happen. I think we got through the game unscathed, which is nice. But are we going to get some players back soon? Maybe. I hope. Be nice if we could. Are we going to, if 5 or 6 are available next week, are we going to play them all? Who knows? Does anyone need a rest? Do you bring some back and then you drop someone else that's a bit older? So you're still not at your full strength. So how the selectors are going to go with it, I'm not too sure. But it'd be nice to get some senior guys back. They can play that style of footy, because the more times we lose and the more the opposition sees what is effective against us, the more it's going to be harder for us to back up week after week after week. So, clearly when you're winning footy, teams try see what you're doing as well, and they try and beat it, but more often than not, they just can't. But it's a little bit easier to pick apart your weaknesses. So, and it does affect the confidence of the side as well. So hopefully we can sort of get back on that winners list, and then find our feet again and start winning some games. But it's only one loss out of 6. So if we can get another win or 2 in the next few months, I think last week I was predicting we'd win the next 4. So if we win 3 out of 4, we're still doing okay. Clown Assassin says bad kicking is bad football. Yes, you're right about that. Robbo says big crosses here, Parfitt and Tui. We have to talk about Parfitt. I feel really bad for the guy. He's not going to get a pat on the back after walking off the ground. I think that's pretty obvious. I think he would probably feel that he's let himself down and didn't play the best he could play after being recalled to the team. And it is hard to keep your spot in this side. Yeah, we had a loss, but it's a premiership side with a very deep list when everyone's fit, and the last thing you want to do is get a recall and then play that badly. It is a shame. We wanted him to come back and make it hard for other guys to get back in, but he wasn't doing it. Unfortunately, Ollie Dempsey is another one that you just want to see. You want him just to say, no, this is my spot and I'm keeping it. But there's just a few of those guys, sort of those fringe type fellas. Probably Mitch Nevitt excluded from that list. I think he was okay. Should keep his spot. But those fringe players, I just wanted them to see a little bit more from them. They didn't really stand up. And Tui had a bad night. I'm not going to strike a line through Tui yet. He's entitled to have a bad night. Unfortunately, they did hype him up a bit through the game with the promo about this kid from Ireland. Just imagine all this sort of stuff, but didn't. He had some bad. He was doing so many dump kicks, long, and just they were turning out. I was pulling my hair out. It happens. The pressure got to him, and as I said earlier, I think the more senior guys were just trying to do too much and getting frustrated, thinking that they just. I don't know. I'm not a coaching strategist, but to me, just looking at it, it's like, yeah, these guys are trying too hard, and it's just like, just do the fundamentals well. And if we lose, we lose, but at least we're not going to give it to them. But that's what happened. James Durkin says, got beaten by what we know. Is really embarrassing, really. Yeah, look, we know that style of footy beats us, but again, it's the team that we took in, unfortunately. Duncan's defending is a bit of a cross, says Rexy. Didn't like Tui's turnovers and Hawkins competing when the ball wasn't kicked on top of his head or perfectly to him. He really liked Bruin's efforts and Nevitt's overhead marking. He does love an overhead mark. He's got some good hands, Mitch Nevitt. So, as I said, I'd love to see Nevitt keep his place in the side for a few more weeks if possible. I think just him being in the side is only going to do wonders for his confidence. So let's keep that going. Now, Ethan has about 9 crosses. God, Ethan. Not a positive one, not one tick. He's gone cross. Parfitt. I'm not going to say cross every time. Parfitt, Segler, Tui, Parfitt, and fans blaming umpires. It might have been one of those fans blaming umpires, but it's not the umpire's fault that we lost. It's the umpires made some choices that affected the momentum of the game, but ultimately they don't decide the result. It is what it is. So thank you. Parfitt not in the good books with a lot of Cats fans. It's pretty clear. Jamie A. Innes says midfield was undermanned. We battled, but not enough class or experience. Parfitt, defence was poor, out-tackled and out-kicked. Will be hard next week. Need reinforcements quickly. Checkbook open for Parish with a question mark. I think we'll be coming for Parish. There's a lot of Geelong supporters that aren't keen on getting Parish in. They don't rate him that highly. He's just a possession winner, and that's about it. I don't know if I'd throw everything at Parrish to get him to come across, but if he comes across for reasonable money, then maybe we'll look at it. You gotta keep bringing in those mid-20 age blokes. Can't just have all these old guys drop off and then rely on some draftees to do the business for you. So he might not be the answer, but you got to look at your list profile as well. And our Foot with a full stop says tick tick tick. Rat, Brune and Jai Clark. You love Jai Clark. We'll talk about Jai Clark in a minute. He didn't like Parfitt, shocker. Segler, I actually thought Segler was okay, and I might, if I remember to, I'll cover that as well. Dump kicks, Holmesy second half, yeah, God, disappeared, didn't he? Too many passengers, yeah. Lack of composure and endeavour. I don't know about endeavour, but definitely composure. Rosebery, the umpire, yeah, does not seem to like Geelong too much. Well, makes some interesting calls against Geelong, but maybe that's just being Geelong supporters. We're a bit one-eyed. We see it how we want to see it. Lucas, I'll read a couple more. Lucas Birchall says Jai Clark with a big tick, and across being Jai Clark being sub on debut. No, we don't like the sub on debut, do we? All right, one more. Scrolling down. I'll go with the chaps because I love the chaps. Big tick, 4 ticks, because they're very balanced, the chaps. Clearance work, contested footy, defending the air, and youth development. They weren't too happy with the lack of chase inside forward 50, the inaccuracy, defending our ground, and a few sat down or disappeared when they needed to stand up. So some fair calls there. I don't know if I agree with the lack of chase inside forward 50. I think we tackled okay, but we probably just, as I said earlier, I think we looked a bit like the Washington Generals at one point. They were just running around us, and we just didn't. We were just all over the shop. We couldn't find our feet. Just every time they went left, we went right. It was no good at all. I'm still frustrated. I was going to do this. I was going to record this earlier in the weekend because Friday seems like a long time ago now, but I'm still frustrated. I hate waking up on Saturday morning after a loss. Feels like waking up on Christmas Day and there's just no presents under the tree. It's a horrible feeling. I don't know. Now, the other thing with Twitter is we put out the call for the Roll of Honour. And who won the Roll of Honour? Oh, I think it was pretty close between Tanner Bruin was leading at one point, and then I think most people must have been reading the comments and voted against him. But in the end, Tom Stewart got up for his second time, I think, this year in the Roll of Honour. So I'll post that on Twitter later tonight as well. So, yeah, look, I probably would have had Mitch Duncan. I thought Mitch Duncan was okay. I would have given him probably the 3 votes. I'm not gonna do my 3-2-1 votes only because Paul's not on the show, and I might see if I can get his votes in the next couple of days, and we'll share them on the socials as well. But yeah, definitely, I think Duncan probably for 4 quarters wasn't outstanding, but he was solid for the whole 4 quarters and kicked a nice goal there, I think, as well. So that was good. Now, Jai Clark, we've got to talk about him. I want to talk about Jai Clark, and I want to talk about Segler. Who do I start with? I'll start with Segler. He did some bad things, but I thought he did a lot of good things as well. I thought he was getting a lot of the hit-outs, against an opponent that was very, very inexperienced, and you probably would have expected him to absolutely dominate, but he did some good things. He made some good decisions at times. There was a couple of times where he tried to pick the ball up and got in the way of a inside mid, and it's like, mate, what are you doing? Just know your role. But overall, I think he's one of his better games for us. He's, we'll whinge about him all, and we'll bring in Stanley, and everyone has looking at Stanley with rose-coloured glasses, and he's not the world. None of them are the world's best ruckmans, and that's just the way it is at Geelong. But Stanley, he's a premiership player now, and he will always be a premiership player at Geelong, and we'll love him for that. But he may need the time when he comes back as well. He might not be ready to hit the ground running, and they'll be like, bring back Segler. So it's not many. There's not many clubs that have got an A+ ruckman in their squad. They're hard to find, and they're hard to keep on the park when they're fit. Keep them fit all the time. Jai Clark came on as the sub. Really liked what I saw, especially in the first 3 seconds when he pretty much dacked Dustin Martin. I thought, God, that's nice. Didn't muck around with that. And then just kept racking up tackles, kept getting the ball. I expected him to get a fair bit of the ball because he's does have a reputation of being able to hunt the ball and know where to find it. But I think a few people were saying on Twitter, and I completely agree, that he just seems like he can play at the level. He just seems, he's going to play. He looks better at AFL level than he does at VFL level. He plays like a VFL player at VFL level. He plays like an AFL player at AFL level. So whether you keep him in the team long term, I don't know. He definitely started well with 30 minutes of footy. 5 tackles in that 30 minutes of footy is pretty good. I don't think he'd probably convert that into 20 tackles if you gave him 4 quarters, but especially when you've only got 30 minutes and you give it absolutely everything for 30 minutes, you've got a game of footy is like running a half marathon, isn't it? It's like 15, 20 Ks. It's you got to pace yourself a little bit, and so he may not have been able to do that in a full game. But I'm like a few others. People are saying, look, I don't like the sub. It is what it is, and maybe it's just that we've got this sub rule and we don't like that because that's a lot of guys are going to get debuted that way. They're not going to be first pick, but maybe they get a little taste of it and they get to be part of the team and the build up and all of that sort of stuff. And I do like the fact that it's a tactical sub, so they at least get a game now. You don't want to be sitting on the bench the whole game thinking it's going to be your debut and then realise you don't debut and your parents are all and your family are there and all that. But I was really happy for him. Hopefully he's pretty happy with himself. Unfortunately, he didn't get to sing the song, and not that we do the Gatorade thing, but in the middle with his teammates singing the song, that would have been nice. Unfortunately, that wasn't meant to be, so that's a shame. Not meant to be. So next week, I think we've got at Fremantle at Optus Stadium on the Saturday. It's a twilight game, I think. It's about 4:35 on Saturday night, Saturday afternoon. It's Sir Doug Nicholls' round as well, so hopefully everyone's seen the Guernseys that have been rolled out for that round. I actually think it's the first new Guernsey we've had in a couple of years, so I quite like it actually. I'm very pleased with it. Hopefully we keep getting a new Guernsey every year. I didn't like the fact that we didn't have a new one last year. I don't know. It didn't make sense from a business point of view either. I thought surely you could be selling some more Guernseys. I know the kids like buying them. The kids like having a bit of a point of difference as well. So I'm a bit old school. I just like the normal hoops, and I'm good. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I like the Guernsey. Over in Freo, though, it's going to be a tough one. Freo's not absolutely flying, but they're not going terribly either, and they always seem to find something on their home deck. And Geelong and Freo, I wouldn't say it's a historical rivalry, but they do tend to find a little extra something for us as well. So that's going to be a tricky one. Who's going to come in? Look, I hope Rowan's ready. I hope Sam DeConning's ready to come back. Who else have we got? There's probably a few others. I don't know if I'm being in a hurry to drop too many. Look, you might... Do you drop Parfitt straight away? Does that absolutely destroy his confidence? Do you give him one more chance? What about Ollie Dempsey, another young guy? 2 games, came on as a sub last week, but does he get another chance? He got subbed out this week. I don't know. It's a really tough one. I mean, hopefully these guys have got a thick skin and can handle it, but it's a lot of other guys that aren't getting to play full stop. What about Cooper White? Is he going to get another chance this year? Is he way down the order? And what about a young fella who played in the VFL on the weekend, Phoenix Foster, a tall bloke, played two or three games in the VFL now. I think he's played, looking like he's going to absolutely dominate the AFL one day. From what I can see so far, I really like what he's putting out there. Catch some vision of him, and you'll be very impressed. He just seems to have this presence about him, like it's his game, and we're all just playing along. It's fun. It's going to be fun watching him. I would not be surprised if we saw a debut from Phoenix Foster at some stage this year. It may depend on some injuries too, some talls like Tommy Hawkins or Jeremy Cameron potentially. You'd think Shannon Neer would be first in line, but he's been injured and still seems a fair way off. So you never know. You might get a debut. We've had 2 debuts this year already. Can we get a third in 2023? I'd like a third, but I'd also like some guys that debuted last year to get some more opportunities too. So I want Cooper White to get another chance, and hopefully we stick with Mitch Nevitt and Ollie Dempsey a bit longer as well. I'm probably missing 1 or 2 other young guys in the squad. Don't think Oscar Riccardi's ready until next year, so. It is what it is. Look, I think the Cats will. If you're asking me what my prediction is at this very early stage on a Sunday night, 6 days out from the game. I think the Cats will just get the win, not by a couple of goals. I think it's not. It's going to be consecutive weeks of ugly footy. I think I'm predicting. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't think we're going to enjoy watching the Cats play again. I think we'll be relieved to get away with the win, to get back to Geelong, but it's not going to be pretty. I don't think we're going to be straight back to champagne football after last week. There's some signs there that we just might have been dropping off a little bit, and yeah, who knows where the next few weeks are going to take us. Hopefully, though, we sort things out pretty quickly and we learn what went wrong last week. But it's a different opponent, and they're going to play a different style to Richmond again. So, you learn some things, but also you've got a different opponent who's got a different way of playing footy too. Now, if you haven't already, and we'll go around the grounds in a few minutes, but if you haven't already, please think about subscribing to the channel. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you very much, Brad. We're nearly there. We've got who have we got on our Behind the Play podcast this week? I know we had Trevor Young on Tuesday. I've just totally blanked on that one. It'll come back to me a bit later on. I know who it is. It's a Freo YouTuber called Noah. He's got a channel called UCAT, UCATT. So he'll be coming. He did it with Paul. Interviewed him a few weeks back now. And I think he's got about 7,000 subscribers. He's big into the footy over there, and in WA, one of the few sort of Freo supporters out there that have got a channel. So doing quite well. But let's talk about the other games that went on. We've had the 2 games on the Friday night this week, other than the Geelong one. We had the Gold Coast defeating West Coast by 70 points. Bit of an ugly game, that one. An 8-goal second quarter from the Gold Coast. I think it was one of their highest scoring quarters ever. I think 2017 was the last time they kicked anywhere near that amount in a quarter. So that was pretty good for them. They're starting to come back a little bit, the Gold Coast. Looking a lot better now than what they were 4 or 5 weeks ago. Fremantle knocked off Sydney. There's another one. I probably would have picked Sydney there if I was tipping. I've just totally dropped off my tipping at the moment. Freo, not surprised. Sydney, they've lost 6 out of 7 now. 4 straight losses. I told you all that Sydney was going to bomb out of the 8 this year. It's pretty hard to get smashed in a grand final and then back it up again. They started the season okay, but yeah, that's hard to come back from that. Like, they might prove me wrong still and make a resurgence in the second half of the year, but I'm seeing some signs. I think Buddy's done. They might have to make some tough calls on him. I don't think he's kicked a goal in 2 weeks now. That's going to be a tough, and I think their captain got injured on the weekend as well, so some tough times ahead. But yeah, Freo did Sydney by 17 points. Port Adelaide, they're rolling at the moment. They defeated North, about 70 points as well. It was the first game for Horn Francis against his old mob. We played pretty well. That was down in Tassie, this one. So a bit of noise in Tassie at the moment about not wanting taxpayers' money spent on the stadium. So I'm not sure what that does to the 19th team situation. We'll have to watch that over the next few weeks and months to see what plays out there. But some of the Tassie people aren't too happy. Probably the Tassie people up in the north, in Launceston, that don't have a stadium up there. Anyway, Melbourne defeated Hawthorn. Yeah, we probably expected that. Did we expect any different? 6 straight losses for Hawthorn now. That's just lovely. You love seeing that. They're struggling. But they're getting so much sympathy, and they played really well against Melbourne. The media are just in love with Hawthorn, even though they're just bottom of the line, looking absolutely terrible. Anyway, haven't done anything yet, haven't proven anything yet. Wait till they start winning games and then start talking to me about how they're a team on the rise. Maybe come a little bit harder for Hawthorn. I don't know. Brisbane defeated Essendon by 42 points. Joey Danaher decided to play some footy for once and kick 6 goals. He's good. He can be a little bit selfish at times and be all about him. But it's nice to see him play a reasonably good game. And Essendon had a chance in this game. They were in front for a fair chunk of it, but ultimately just weren't good enough in the end. And the Lions are pretty hard to beat. Pretty hard to beat at home, aren't they? So what are you going to do? Now the Doggies, Carlton. The Doggies defeated Carlton by 20 points. I think the lead changed about 4 times in the fourth quarter. Defeated them by 20 points in the end, though. Having the Carlton fans turned on their own. Get the popcorn out. This is going to be fun next few weeks. Michael Voss should be very nervous. crisis meetings galore, I'm sure. Each of them pointing fingers at each other. They need a win pretty soon, and it's not going to get any easier, Carlton, because you're playing the Pies next week at the MCG in front of probably 95,000 people, and Pies look irresistible right now. I had a pie on the weekend. It was quite nice, actually. My partner brought one home, surprised me with a pie, and I devoured it. It was very lovely, but I'm sure Collingwood's going to devour Carlton on the weekend and further sink the boot into their 2023 season. I did think Carlton was going to play finals this year, but now I'm not so sure. They're going to need to find something and find it pretty quickly, very quickly. Last game? No, two games to go. Adelaide defeated St Kilda by 52 points. Tex Walker kicked his 5 goals. I don't know what this game says. I mean, Adelaide's pretty hard to beat at home this year, at least anyway. St Kilda, did they have does it say much about their season? Yeah, they had a loss, but are we writing St Kilda off after one loss? Probably not. I think we look at the Saints a little bit closer over the next couple of weeks and see how they go. Can they bounce back pretty quickly and get back on the winners list? Win the next 2 out of 3. I think if they do that, I think their season's still ticking along quite nicely, but they wouldn't want to start getting to a bit of a rut now, which they did last year as well. They started on fire and they drifted and ultimately missed the finals. In the end, so you don't want to see that from the Saints again, but they're hanging in there. They just need to find it again. And the last game of the round, Collingwood defeated GWS by 65 points. What did you expect from Collingwood against a bottom 4 team in GWS? It was always going to happen, wasn't it? So a young fella by the name of Nick Dacos just bobbed up again with 41 touches. He cannot get enough of that footy, that guy. So do we give him the Brownlow yet? I don't know. Maybe. He should be in the top 5 at least, but Brownlow, picking the winner of a Brownlow, if it was that easy, we'd get it right every year, but it's not. I don't know. He accumulates a lot of it, and he looks reasonably good, but doesn't absolutely tear a game up like a Bontempelli. Yeah, I'm in love with Bontempelli. Sue me. Jeremy Cameron had a quiet one, so he's probably dropped off a little bit. I can't remember how many goals Charlie Curnow kicked, or if he's still leading the Coleman medal. I'll look into that one. I'm not going to do the research while I'm recording a show, but it should be pretty close in the Coleman medal. I think that's probably where things will end up. I don't think Brownlow is his go. Anyway, in other news, Cats news, the VFL men's team looked like they were going to get the win against Richmond just to right some wrongs. Unfortunately, Tigers came back pretty strong in the fourth quarter there and it ended up in a draw. So hollow feeling for everyone all around, but well done to the boys for fighting hard and getting something out of the game. And the VFL women, the only team for the club this round that they had a win, so they beat the Darebin Falcons. So well done to the girls on getting a win there. One out of 3. Would have preferred 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3. We were flying at one stage, weren't we? We were winning everything, but it's dropped off a little bit. Gary Ablett Jr. is, if you want to catch a bit of Gary Ablett Jr. action, he's playing for Creswick in June. A little bit of a drive to get to Creswick, depending on where you live in Victoria, or assuming not everyone lives in Victoria, I guess, but if you do live in Victoria, he's playing for Creswick in June, so you might want to check that one out. I'm not sure how much the tickets are, but if you can get along and beep your horn and sink a few tinnies with the locals and all that sort of stuff. I've never actually done that before at a local footy game, but it might be worth looking at. And Alistair Clarkson, the last little bit of news for the week. Alistair Clarkson absolutely teeing off his old club, Hawthorn, and don't we love to see it. He's not happy, and there's a lot of love lost there between him and his old club. So that's a shame. Anyway, that's me for another episode of The Hoop Show. Thank you for everyone who's joined in and watched, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. If you comment down below, we might actually pick a random person from the comments from this episode to go into a draw for a prize next week. We might do a little trivia show. So if we might play for a viewer at home, that kind of thing. So comment below. Let me know what you think about the game. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think about solo shows versus panel shows. Personally, I prefer a panel show. I'm talking to a little white light above my monitor at the moment, which isn't a whole lot of fun. I much prefer to have a conversation with someone, but it is what it is. So don't forget to connect with us on social media. I think there's a lot of people that are following The Hoop Show on social media, so check us out there. We're also on Instagram as well, and doing the occasional thing on TikTok, but it's a young person's game, that one. So, and it takes a little. I try to cut up some videos every now and then and do all that, but it takes a little bit of time. So it's not always that easy to do. Anyway, as we always say before we close, go Cats. See everyone. Take care.